deal. Camera Jackie.
My argument against the death penalty is that innocent people could be killed if they are falsely accused and put on death row. If killing an innocent person puts you on death row, then it would be hypocritical if you executed a person that was sentenced to death row and was actually innocent. My arguments include how judges convict people too soon without the evidence that they really need, and also how eyewitnesses can lie. There's no way to tell if someone is completely telling the truth. Dan L. Bright was convicted in 1996 of first-degree murder. The witness that testified against him had problems with him in the past, so he gave the court false information. It turns out that the witness had been very drunk the night of the crime, so he could not have known what was going on. The eyewitness was not suitable for being the witness, and that affected Dan's chances of not being convicted. The book Capital Punishment, Current Controversies by Thomas Gale states, "Capital punishment is moral to prevent taking the lives of the innocent. But if the killer is innocent, then it's the same thing. The person would be murdered, would be executed on death row for no reason besides being falsely accused." Alan Gell was arrested of robbery and murder of a truck driver. He was sentenced to death row. He was convicted because his ex-girlfriend and her best friend were the witnesses. They were testifying against him. His ex-girlfriend was caught on tape saying, "We have to keep making the story up." Also, the prosecutors were withholding information and evidence that favored Gell. His ex-girlfriend should not have been the eyewitness, and she didn't like him, and he couldn't do anything with what she was saying. In Florida, a condemned man may only introduce evidence of innocence within 1 to 2 years after the imposition of the death penalty. That means that the killer has to wait 1 or 2 years before he can come back to court and say that he might be innocent. Also, out of every 7 people that is executed, 1 of them is innocent, and that's a lot of people. Greg Wilholt was convicted for the murder of his wife. He was convicted because 2 dental experts found bite marks on his wife that matched his teeth. The 2 experts had actually been out of dental school for over a year. Also, Greg's attorney showed up to court with nothing prepared, and he was found guilty. Greg has 2 girls and 1 14-month-old baby. He was in jail for 8 years, missing most of their childhood and early teenage years. He said that the judge told him that he was to die by lethal injection. Then the judge said, "But if that fails, we'll kill you by electrocution. If the power goes out, we'll hang you. And if the rope breaks, we'll take you out back and shoot you." How would you feel if you were told that, knowing that you were innocent and you had your life ahead of you, and you had your children at home with no one to look after them? In conclusion, the killing of innocent people sentenced to death row is bad and should not happen. The cases that I used to defend my argument were about discrimination and also being falsely accused by eyewitnesses lying. When you're in jail, almost everyone is working against you to keep you in there. But what if you're innocent? Thank you.
Okay. So, according to a Columbia University study, only 5% of people convicted and put on death row are actually innocent, and the other 95% are actually guilty. So, I mean, yeah, there have been some cases where it's an accident, but the government has been improving their security measures and their safeguards so that it really doesn't happen that often anymore. And even if it does, it's only there's probably only been a couple of times in the past few years, like probably once or maybe not even. So, I mean, you're arguing that all these innocent people are killed, but they're not. I'm sure, yes, there have been cases, but how many, since, never mind.
Alex Vidovi-McCoggin was stating that how long the death penalty it was to take before you get the death penalty, and she was saying that about the price, because it takes such a long time, but you were arguing kind of against her, saying that it's short to get the death penalty.
It takes 1 or 2 years. That's what I read in the book.
No. She was saying how it takes such a long time and it's so expensive, but the question is, are those measures necessary? You think they are, right?
Yeah.
So, no, she said it takes 1 or 2 years to actually get to say that they're.
Sorry, it's just one person answering the question.
It takes 1 to 2 years to say that you're innocent, to go back into court, and after 1 or 2 years, you have to wait the whole time before you can, and that's just wasting time. That you could be out with your children, or.
But they were talking about the price, and I personally think the price of death penalty, like how long it takes, is worth it. But you were saying how it's death penalty. She was saying how death penalty is not so expensive and it takes such a long time to do, and you were saying how it should be longer because.
I didn't say it should be longer.
But isn't that why there are long and lengthy trials, to prevent these innocent executions? Sure, it costs more money, but isn't it worth it? That's what. Let's say you're put on death row. That's why you're there for like 10 years or more, so you can repeatedly go through the appeals process and prove that you are innocent. If you were truly innocent, you wouldn't be executed. They would find evidence to prove so.